Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Hamas says its political leader Ismail Haniyeh has been killed in an Israeli attack in the Iranian capital. According to Iranian media, an airstrike hit a building for war veterans in Tehran, where Haniyeh was staying at around 2 a.m. Haniyeh was widely considered Hamas's overall leader and played a key role in negotiations aimed at reaching a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. According to Hamas, Haniyeh was in Tehran to take part in the inauguration ceremony of the new Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, who was sworn in on Tuesday. His death could now delay efforts to bring about a ceasefire in Gaza, as he was critical in the negotiations brokered by Qatar, the US and Egypt. The US Secretary of State, however, stressed the importance in a cessation of fighting.
Nothing takes away from the importance of getting to the ceasefire, which is manifestly in the interests of the hostages and bringing them home. It's manifestly in the interests of Palestinians who are suffering terribly every single day.
Meanwhile, Israel says it has killed a top Hezbollah commander after carrying out an airstrike on a southern suburb of the Lebanese capital, Beirut. The Israeli military says Fuad Shukr, who was a target of an intelligence-based elimination. Hezbollah has not yet confirmed his death, but says Shukr was in a building that was hit at the time. Israeli officials say he was responsible for a rocket attack on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights on Saturday, which killed 12 people, mostly children. Fresh protests have broken out in the Venezuelan capital, Caracas, after the disputed result of the country's presidential election. Thousands gathered in the city centre to show their opposition to President Nicolas Maduro's claim of victory. Many said they would not stop until there was a new government, and some said this would only be achieved if the security forces joined opposition protesters. However, the military and police have so far remained loyal to Mr. Maduro and have fired tear gas and rubber bullets at some protesters. The death toll from the massive landslides that have hit the southern Indian state of Kerala has now crossed 158, with officials saying more than 220 people are still missing. Rescue workers say they are searching under collapsed roofs and debris of destroyed houses for possible survivors. Thick torrents of mud and water swept through the region, flattening homes and uprooting trees. Heavy rains continue in the area, hampering rescue operations. Kamala Harris has brought her presidential campaign to Georgia, a state that some Democrats now consider up for grabs in the closely contested election. Taking to the stage in Atlanta to a raucous crowd, Ms. Harris said the momentum in the race was shifting. She described her people-powered campaign as the underdog in the race, but pointed to how Mr. Biden carried the state in 2020 and once again challenged Donald Trump to debate her.
I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage, because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say,
Hugh Edwards, once the BBC's most senior news presenter, has pleaded guilty to 3 counts of making indecent images of children. He admitted having 41 indecent images of children which had been sent to him by another man on WhatsApp. They included 7 Category A images, the most serious classification, 2 of which showed a child between about 7 and 9. Until last year, Mr. Edwards was one of the main presenters on BBC News at 10 and often fronted coverage of major national events. And the Paris 2024 triathlons have finally taken place in the Seine after days of uncertainty. The Seine finally passed river water tests, ending days of uncertainty over whether the central Paris swim was viable after rainfall caused a rise in concentrations of infection-causing bacteria like E. coli. The decision to postpone the men's race at the last minute on Tuesday triggered anger among some athletes. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.